Hi. Our next part is on how to be bulletproof in data journalism. Many times when I start with a new client or I'm working with some colleagues or a team that's on the ground that wants some data support with an article they're working on, 9 times out of 10, they start and say, what we really need from you is to make sure that our data analysis is bulletproof. And I always have to say to them, if you mean bulletproof in the sense that no one can say you did it wrong, or no one can say there's a better way to do it, and everyone will draw the same conclusions as you, there's no such thing as bulletproof. There's no such thing as bulletproof in data analysis. There's no such thing as bulletproof in data collection. There's no such thing as bulletproof in data reporting. If by bulletproof you mean you are doing it the absolutely correct, unequivocally best practices way. One of the founders of statistics in sort of the modern era once famously said that all models are wrong, some are useful. And I have a big poster of that over my desk because it is in fact true that doing data analysis, doing data journalism is part art and part science. And the only way to be bulletproof is to be as transparent as possible. The only way to be quote-unquote correct in data analysis is to say exactly what you did and exactly why you did it. And if possible, it's not always possible, but if it is possible, make the data you used available. I cannot overemphasize this, that you need to be, going into data journalism, you need to be aware that there's always going to be somebody in the world that says you should have done it this way. If you did an analysis this way, you should have done it this way. If you used this data, you could have used that data. You included health expenditures in your country as a moderator. It should have been a confounder. And no expert in the world is going to be able to make it so that you are, quote, bulletproof to people saying you should have done it another way. That is the terrifying part of data journalism, but it's also the really creative part of data journalism, is that you do the best you can, you do it as mindfully and ethically and rigorously as you can, and then you say exactly what you did. For example, here in the New York Times is a really good article from the Upshot on the power of simple life changes to make an impact in your likelihood of being affected by heart disease. I think this is a great example of data journalism. Because they are drawing on a number of different studies. They're consulting with experts in the field, and they're taking the time to explain to you what the research actually means in the real world. So probability of getting a disease is very hard to write about in data journalism because, again, the unit of analysis, whether you're talking about how likely it is that anyone will get the disease or how likely it is that you will get the disease, are two very different things, as we've seen. So here, for an example, what does this mean in real numbers? So they walk you through it. Then they make an interpretation. These differences are not small. Then they do the really important transparency part. There are caveats, of course. All the participants in these analyses were white. So right now, you have a huge disclaimer, and it's very easy to take shots at this article. But really, they're telling you what they did. They're telling you what the lessons are, and they're making their suggestions. Another great example is, here's an article from Orb Media, where we did a lot of work with the World Bank financial inclusion data, Findex data. And we take you through exactly what steps we took. The Findex data is publicly available so that you yourself, if you want, can go back and replicate the choices that we made to make sure our analysis is correct. But more importantly, you can go through and make different choices than we've made and see how those different choices would affect you. So if you want to be bulletproof, your only option is to be as transparent as possible.